over time causes weight gain, fatigue, and high blood pressure. The disease takes time to manifest in the body, but as we have seen, working from the energetic levels, healing can happen in a moment, taking no time at all.
One of the greatest challenges that we are facing as a humanity is to recognize that the mind's energy and the soul's energy need to be closer, more closely interwoven. There needs to be a deeper integration between the two. The soul has come to this planet to have experiences. It is here to refine itself toward pure spirit. The soul is expressing what we're here to learn, what we're coming to refine, for that is why it came. But we're identified as the mind, and so we think we have a soul, but in truth, we actually are the soul that has a mind.
Now, if you really want to get confused, there are some scientists who say that time is only a construct of the human mind, that it doesn't really exist, and that past, present, and future are existing simultaneously in a place called the now. But no matter what you know about time, all of the energy healers and experts we talked with agree that what often seems to be past life experiences and traumas do show up in healing sessions. As well, these memories affect the body. They also agree that these old traumas carried forward from past incarnations can also be healed in the here and now. In this episode, we meet Marlene Allen, spiritual healer, quantum activator, and past life intuitive, who examines, among other things, how disease is intertwined with past life histories and past life emotional and physical traumas carried forward by the soul.
I'm Marlene Allen, and for the most part, I'm pretty much like you, just like everybody else. I grew up pretty average. I knew I knew things, but I thought everybody did. So I just was an average kid. So I'm a lifelong student. Absolutely curious. I want to know. Now, I'm not a scientist and I don't play one on TV, nothing like that. I have no idea. You know, like when you flip the light switch on, it goes on. That's all I really know about what I do. You know, if it all boils down to it, I know it works, period.
I'm Julie Chula, and this is my energy healing story. I was coughing for about 3 months, and in the current environment, let's just say it wasn't exactly a welcoming thing to be doing, And so I was basically home and just trying to muddle through with, natural health remedies, and it wasn't working. By the time I get to this past January, I had seen an allergist and been, diagnosed with just random, sinus type stuff, but they had taken a chest x-ray and they said, get to the hospital. And I could tell my tolerance for breathing was high, but I was struggling. So it was basically at that point, I was down to one lung, less than one lung. So I was at about 40% breathing capacity. So the fact that I was severely symptomatic and pretty scared, I called in the experts. I started with Marlene in January, because the minute I had a crisis and the minute I realized I was having trouble breathing, it was like, call in the big guns. I need, this needs to be solved quickly. And I was also experienced enough in energy healing to know my body was going to need the actual, what we call 3D time to manifest that, healthy new liver, those healthy new lungs that weren't, the process of producing fluid that was happening in my liver. In order to be able to stem the tides, things have to happen in there. So I called in January knowing it was going to take time. And it took the better part of 5 months.
When I heard that, it was like, okay, all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're absolutely going to do this.
Yeah.
This is not even a question,
oh.
Right? So it was like you had that tenacity, like this is, I'm gonna see through this. I'm gonna get out on the other side, and this is not who I am. This is not going to be my identity. I'm not going to be living with this.
Energy healing can be long term, like the fact that it took 5 months. Because at the end of the 5 months, the biggest miracle of all is that I stopped needing my lungs drained. That's incredible. The fact that I literally was going from up at the peak 5 liters a week. 5 liters. Picture the 5 bottles. I have a picture to share, coming out of my body. It's terrifying. So that stopped after 5 months. I haven't had a procedure since May 1st, since April. That is the biggest, most exciting result I got. And there are little ones along the way, that were more instant. For example, when your body is being, pricked with that pin to get the fluid to come out, it's going through a shock and it's producing proteins in the lungs. And the doctors call them spiders, meaning that the body's trying to scar up the area to keep your body safe. Well, that protein activity that they call spiders actually makes the procedure really difficult. So in other words, in the beginning, the fluid would just come right out. Later on, when I had spiders, as they call them, the fluid was in fits and starts and the fluid was in pockets. And so they'd have to jam the needle around in there. And, I don't mean to be gory, but let me just say, spiders are bad enough as ugly bugs, but when they're in your lungs and you're having fluid drain, it's a nightmare, and also it affects your breathing during the procedure. So I was really suffering this thing called spiders. After the first time it happened, the next time I had my session with Marlene at Your Body Power, I said, I have this thing called spiders. It's been a nightmare. And she said, oh. And she did an energy clearing. And the next day I go into the hospital and they were like, yeah, it's going to be a complicated procedure, doctor, because, she has these spiders and did it. And he's like, no, she doesn't. And there were no spiders. There were no spiders. And I was like, doing the old, turn-a-roo, like trying to watch and say, what do you mean there's no spiders? Because they've got the thing on my back. And they said, we've never seen it before. We have no idea how this happened. Well, where I am now is just absolutely nothing short of a miracle because I am so strong. I was, in January when I went into the hospital and up through pretty much April, I was 25 pounds, lighter than I am now. I was emaciated. I wasn't able to hold food. I wasn't breathing. I was spending 3 days in my chair, in pain. But what I held was a vision of, and this is the part for me from my Jan. I held a vision of myself as someone who was strong and vital and riding horses that we have, and so anytime I was just, doing my own energy work, just going within, we can all do it. We all can go within, or with a practitioner, it's clearing out all that fear energy. And that was the vision, that I was going to be riding those horses. So that was my experience, was, going from a doctor telling me I need a liver transplant to, holding a vision of me riding the horses to, I was riding horses by June 1st. I was riding them within 6 months. And I did nothing else in that time besides the energy work. So I know that's what it was. I don't need a liver transplant. I manifested the outcome I want. The vision I had and the intention I had, I held strong and I believed in the energy of it. It's easy to say, it's not easy to do. And getting the assistance of those, that work in this way with you is very helpful, because if you can hold, that vision of what you manifest strongly enough, you will manifest it. You can overcome the worst forms of diagnosis. I mean, liver disease, it's not typically something you bounce back from.
My name's Jana.